Introducing Carvana Value Tracker, where you can track your car's value over time and learn what's driving it. It might make you excited.
Whoa, didn't know my car was valued this high.
It might make you nervous.
Uh-oh, market's flooded. My car's value just dipped 2.3%.
It might make you optimistic.
Our low mileage is paying off. Our value's up.
And it might make you realistic.
Car prices haven't gone up in a couple weeks. Maybe it's time to sell.
But it will definitely make you an expert on your car's value. Carvana Value Tracker. Visit Carvana.com to start tracking your car's value today.
Hey there, welcome. Now it is mid-December. We're coming up on Christmas 2023. Hope you're all excited and ready for that. Today I have a great show. It's with Brian Lisik. He has a great new album out with his band Hard Legs called New Wreckard, spelled in their own special way. That's kind of a Brian Lisik shtick. He comes from Northeast Ohio, my old stomping grounds. He's in the Cleveland-Akron-Canton area where he performs regularly. Great talk. We had a really, really good time. I really hope you enjoy this episode. You're in Canton, Ohio. That is very familiar stomping grounds to me since I grew up in Northeast Ohio.
All right, and yeah, it's a great place to live and do business.
Yeah. Did you grow up in Canton?
No, I grew up on East Akron, and gravitated down this way, following my girlfriend.
All the way to Canton. Wow, you didn't have to go.
Yeah. Well, I kept it close to home. Didn't want to be far from mom's cooking.
That's cool. That's really so. My sister has been living in Akron now for the last 35 years. She grew up with me. She went to Miami for like 5 years and loved Akron so much because there was so much family there in Cleveland. So that was
yeah. And my relative on my dad's side, my relatives are all west side of Cleveland, Lakewood, and Elyria. I think there's some Westlake mixed in there in Fairview or something. But
yeah. And for those who don't know, like Cleveland is like so separated by the Cuyahoga River. I hardly ever went to the west side. It was just like once in a blue moon.
Yeah, and it's one or the other because I've been on both sides of the river now, but growing up, it was, I thought, we were going to Cleveland. I didn't know there was anything, more easterly than Lakewood.
Yeah, it's a great scene there, and it always has been growing up there. That is, like, most people should know this. It's the birthplace of rock and roll. Actually, really closer to Akron, where DJ Alan Freed coined the term, and he's a DJ.
Yeah, I was gonna say, at least the terminology was born here, So.
Yeah, I think it always deserved the Rock Hall. I'll never forget in the 80s when they were lobbying for that. And this columnist named Dick Fagler, I don't know if that rings a bell. Yeah, he was like, what do we need a shrine to Sid Vicious for?
And wasn't it, I think I seem to recall San Francisco and Philly were like the next in line of the places that wanted it.
Yeah, San Francisco. Yeah. And then, I remember that time We Built This City, which is one of Bernie Taupin's worst lyrics, but probably most popular songs. I'm like, San Francisco. Now they gave us Huey Lewis, who I once interviewed as a great guy, and they got Journey.
Yeah, that's true. But boy, I didn't think we'd get on this topic because I think I've been to the Rock, like everything, I live in Canton now. I've been to the Rock Hall and the Football Hall of Fame, I think once each or something. The other places, Philly certainly had an argument and San Francisco had an argument, for being the Rock Hall. But, if you're talking about a birthplace or, where it, commercially started as a thing, you got it, Cleveland earned it.
Yeah, it really did. And it needs things like that and some championships and things like that. Growing up, everybody.
Maybe that's what it came down to. It's like, San Francisco, we love you. Philly, we love you. Cleveland, what else you got?
Right. It's so true. I grew up there. It was like everybody's so down on the place, and then like gave me an attitude. It's like I don't want to grow up and work here, which I wound up moving to Atlanta,
Yeah,
some decades
I
and
don't know if
decades
any,
ago.
I haven't, I've been a lot of places. I haven't lived a lot of places. So I really don't know what it is, but it's, Cleveland is such a cool place, but I don't know if it's so cool that it draws people from other places. It's that, I mean, when you're in there, I mean, my greatest music and everything else memories are, largely in Cleveland, so
Yeah.
I can't say that it's a terrible place. It's a great place, but I don't know if it's got the sex appeal to
Right.
to draw
Right.
people from other parts of the country. But I don't care because it's
Yeah.
you know I hate those terms like it's blue collar and gritty and blah blah blah. Michael Stanley's from here, and because it's a lot more than that. But I like it. It's a cool place and it's close. So there you go.
Michael Stanley, yeah, my side of town
Mhm.
too. Oh my gosh. There were connections there with him that I had, and I was an intern at TV8, which you
Oh,
had
okay.
appeared on. We'll get into you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Not
remember
PM,
him.
not PM magazine though.
I
I, I
remember
I
him.
was never on PM magazine with Stanley Gee or whatever it was called.
Here's the thing. I was on PM Magazine when I was a
Ah,
teenager. Yeah, because I've been a filmmaker since I was a kid growing up
oh
there.
wow.
Yeah.
I, it was what we're I don't know who watches these podcasts, but they're gonna be what are they talking
What the
about? PM
hell's
magazine
this?
and Fairview. What are they talking about?
All my Cleveland friends, definitely. I've got a
Oh,
lot
okay,
of them.
well, okay, so yeah, so
It always pops up in my conversations. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, you grew up there. So what inspired you growing up there? You got into music. Obviously people would say, "Oh, you must have been into the Pretenders." That's huge Akron connection there.
well, I mean, I was into music as much as anybody. It's like, but my older brother still plays music, and he tried to turn me into a first baseman because I was a big, lanky, knock-kneed, clumsy kid, and he's like, "You got to play first. You can't play the middle infield like me." And but none of that worked. So then when he started playing guitar, and I started secretly messing with the guitars, but it was very much what do they call it, imposter syndrome. It's like I learned just enough to fool people, and I've been riding on that ever since.
I knew a lot of kids in Cleveland who did that. They just noodle around. They weren't classically trained in any music, but yeah, they picked up the guitar and like, yeah, I
Well,
want to be
yeah, it's still terrible when I get in a room full of anybody who knows anything about music because it's like, that guy, he doesn't know much, so I'll pal around with him, and then get in a room and start. I can talk like guitar pedals and stuff to make noises, but music theory, I get really um, I start joking about it because I don't want people to know that I know nothing.
That's okay. That's okay. Aren't most? I mean, I would say probably like 90% in the music world, who've done very well. It's not like they've gotten into music theory. Isn't like Slash one of those few who knows how to read music? It's not that many.
Well, here's the thing. We did a couple of records and working with Don Dixon, and and I we're in the studio, and my bass player and Don are talking about this musical whatever, and it's not really music theory. It was just it's like we do the harmonic for this, and where this is a B flat, and I'm over there going, give me a B, I'll flatten it, because I don't know. I couldn't even speak the language, and it's sometimes it's daunting, and and I at one point I said something to the effect of, Don, and I'm just it's like I don't really need to know this music stuff. I just kind of go with feel. And he goes, well, if you're in that business, you got to learn the language. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right, but I've done okay so far. But no, I know, like I said, just enough to write a song and and make noise, So um, hopefully this isn't an instructional video or anything that we're shooting here.
No, not one bit. It's very curious though how you've come up through it and got into it. Did you go to school post high school or just got right into just performing?
Well, I went to college, took communications to be as broad and vague as I possibly could. And, and I'm a writer when I'm not, um, playing music, and that I actually have some semblance of knowledge of, so
Yeah.
I've been a freelance writer for a number of years. And,
Oh,
so it's really cool. I get to, write words and make noises for a living, and it sort of pays the bills most of the time.
are you doing mainly like arts writing? Do you do music reviews and things like that?
That's,
Or
I do anything they hire me for, but I do love to do the arts. It's just kind of getting tough to find work in the arts business. But really, I cover all kinds of things, and of course I'm writing the great American novel because everybody is, right?
yeah, there you go. Is it going to be nonfiction, fiction, or just somewhere in between?
It's probably going to be a self-help book for people who don't know how to speak music.
Write what you know.
Right, right. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
real thin book.
So getting into recording and performing, how did that all come about? And you obviously had connected with people in the business and got going,
Yeah.
and you're performing quite a bit. I see you get a pretty full schedule. It's mainly in
Yeah, I mean,
Northeast Ohio.
I have had. I got to start. We're taking bookings for 2024. It's announced. But no, just like everybody else, I guess. I was you're a kid with a guitar and a couple of buddies that bash around on some things, and let's go get a gig, and start playing, and then I've always been a songwriter, more so than anything else. And so it usually doesn't even start on the live front with me. It starts with, hey, I got this sounds pretty good, and I'm going to record it here at home. And then, yeah, that sounds good enough to take to the studio. And it's like, oh, I don't really want to make a record again because that's a pain in the butt. And then, the next thing you know, it's okay. Well, the recording sounds pretty good. I don't like to do anything without finishing. So I guess we're gonna put a record out. And there's a lot of ways to do that now that there didn't used to be. So that's really nice and fun. I wish I could harness some of those options that I've there's like a lot of options, and it's like walking into a library and going, I need a book, to
Yeah.
try and figure out how to. It's like, well, look at all the books we have, just pick one, so there's a lot of options for groups to get their music out, and I think that's great. But by the same token, I don't really even know what a rock star looks like anymore. I don't think I'd
Yeah.
know a rock star if I tripped over one on the street, and so I don't, and I don't want to be a rock star anymore. I want people to respect me for my music and pay me for my performances.
Yeah.
How's
Yeah.
that for a simple goal?
That's a very worthy goal, and especially as
I
the
hope
years
so.
go
I
on.
hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it is.
You have a great new project out there, new
Okay.
records spelled in your own special ways. It seems like that's something that you get into. What is the inspiration for doing things like that, spelling things just different, just to stand out and kind of just mess with things?
Yeah, I mean, the probably the most, it's odd. People have asked me, what's the most fun thing about, making music anymore? It's like coming up with ridiculous ways to present it, and the album titles are always, I'll keep a running list of them. If somebody will say something, it's like, that's going to be an album title,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
and the misspellings, I don't know, it's probably just me copying Alex Chilton or something, doing the
Yeah.
September Girls with the U or something. I don't know, it's
Yeah.
it's probably not all that creative.
It does stand out. I mean, Prince did that a lot too. And it just, it
Yeah,
does
oh
make
yeah,
it.
yeah, if it worked for Prince, I guess I can't, you know who am I to argue success?
Yeah, at least it's different than like Peter Gabriel just like self-titled his first 4 or 5 releases. It's
Yeah.
like I
Well, I had
can't
this
come up with
idea.
a title.
I had this idea that I want to make a record that's got um,
Introducing Carvana Value Tracker, where you can track your car's value over time and learn what's driving it. It might make you excited.
Whoa, didn't know my car was valued this high.
It might make you nervous.
Uh-oh, market's flooded. My car's value just dipped 2.3%.
It might make you optimistic.
Our low mileage is paying off. Our value's up.
And it might make you realistic.
Car prices haven't gone up in a couple weeks. Maybe it's time to sell.
But it will definitely make you an expert on your car's value. Carvana Value Tracker. Visit Carvana.com to start tracking your car's value today.
different lyrics, but the same 2 chords through the whole record, and just see if anybody notices. Just
Yeah, I'm just
an hour of the same chord and see if anybody notices. Just some. After a while, you start. I don't know. At least I do. When you've done a lot of, when you've made a lot of recordings, you kind of have 2 choices: keep making those same kind of recordings and perfecting them, but or trying to, or else just try crazy wacky stuff. And I found myself leaning more towards crazy and wacky in the last couple. I mean, not to the extent that I'm not quite Tom Waits yet, but I think I'm trying to get there. I don't know, because it's after a while stuff starts to get sort of uninteresting if you keep making the same record over it. But and then the ironic part is that not a whole lot of people have heard any of my records, so it's like, maybe I should try that perfection route. just make a really good one.
No, you've been on. No, you're on the streaming services because I have Amazon, so I was able to listen to some of your stuff. And the live album is a lot of fun. You even break into some classics on that live album.
That was probably accidentally turned out to be my favorite record that I've made, just because, again, Don worked on the post-production of it, and it was a good show. And we sort of decided last minute, hey, this club has a recording studio upstairs. We should ask them to record this thing. And we thought we were going to get a song or 2 for a single or something, and I very hesitantly, timidly said, "Hey, Don, you ever do a live record?" Oh yeah, I'll listen to it. And he kind of suggested, "Hey, take this batch at 10 or 12 songs, whatever it is, and there's the actual live recording. There's a lot more chatter on it." He's like, I'll take all that BS in between the songs that you're yammering about, and whatever. We'll just make it. And it was funny because he said he goes, the sound of it, he goes, it kind of reminds me of, the Who live at Leeds. I'm like, "Ooh, we sound like the Who?" And he goes, "Well, that's not what I said, but I think it reminds me."
Some Pete Townsend would tell long stories, or Roger Daltrey. Those guys go on and on. I think they do.
But whatever. I mean, but I just thought it was funny. It's like, Don Dixon just said we sounded like the Who, and it's like, no, Brian, that's not what I said. I said that the whole affair reminds me of that performance. It's like, oh, okay.
He left some in. There was some banter in there. Didn't you go into Under the Boardwalk?
I mean, it was just that, there's things that happen in a live show that, somebody's tuning a guitar or something, and it doesn't really make for good, listening to an album. So it was just stuff like that. It was cleaning up stuff like that. Otherwise, it's pretty much that's what we did that night, and I'm proud of it because of that it's so authentic and, a real thing. But also the fact that, I've told people of all, I think I've made, I don't know, 9 or 10 records. I don't know. But if you, maybe 8, I'd have to sit and count them.
A nice little catalog there then. Yeah.
It is. Of all of them, that's the one where I can say, if you really want to know, I've played with a bunch of different musicians, a bunch of different lineups and different types of records, little acoustic records and big loud rock records. But that live album is kind of like, there you go. That's kind of what I am. So that's that. It's neat in that sense. And it's also just a fun thing to listen to, I think. And, but yeah, when you talk about, having a nice little catalog, at the end of the day, I want, to have, 250 million Spotify followers and whatever else you're supposed to do to, justify your existence these days. But, just the fact that there's that much music out there that at any given moment, somebody can dip into the well and maybe get something out of my music. And because I sure had a great time working on it, so it's neat to have something like that out there. I often have told the story that at my grandmother's house in Pennsylvania, she had an outhouse, and as a kid, I used to, yeah. And, in the summertime, it's like, you kids go out there and play. And if you got to go in the outhouse, don't bother me in the house. Oh, okay. There are bees in it. And
Bees.
like, that was crazy. What is it? People were nuts that had to live like this. But, you'd go in there and there was like a carving of my dad's initials. And I guess when he was a kid, he was in there, whatever, and carved his initials in the toilet seat of the outhouse. And so I tell people all my music is just, from a metaphorical standpoint, I'm just trying to carve my initials into the toilet seat of the world, because it was neat that it's like my dad did that, as a kid, and so people can look at my music and go, hey, look, this is Brian carving his name on the toilet seat of the world.
What a great way to do that. Yeah.
How's that for poetry? Yeah. And then but to complete the metaphor, then they eventually tore down the toilet seat or tore down the outhouse. So eventually something's going to happen where my outhouse will be torn down, I suppose. But in the meantime, what
That's
a metaphor.
really funny. and you all dodged the bees in there too, I'm sure.
Oh, it was great, man. It's it's wonderful. It's like, my homespun childhood memories, like go take a dump in them. I'm sorry. Go fight off the bees.
There's a song in there somewhere, dodging the bees.
Yeah. Talk to the bees. I don't know, but
we don't really have as many bees these days because of our screwed up climate, so it would have been okay to...
Well, then we shouldn't have gotten rid of probably they all went in the outhouse, I don't know. It seemed like there was a lot of them when you went in there. It was terrible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and growing up, I remember that because we had like yellow jackets all over the place in Cleveland. And butterfly, you don't even see this stuff anymore. It's
it is. I mean, I just assume that I'm not spending a whole lot of time, at amusement parks where there's ketchup and food and stuff. But maybe you're right. I mean, I hope not, because they're pretty important, I think.
Totally. But it's a great live album, Hotsy Totsy. Don Dixon is very well known. He's worked with REM. I love REM. I discovered REM when I was in Athens, Ohio. I went to Ohio U.
Okay. Yeah. First couple REM records he did. He did the first couple Smithereens records. Worked with Counting Crows, Hooting the Blowfish. A whole bunch of that jangly college rock stuff that I grew up with. So it was really neat to I knew him before I even moved to Canton, but at some point, I don't even remember how I found out, but it's like Don Dixon lives in Canton, because his wife, Marty Jones, who is a great singer-songwriter as well, she's from Uniontown. And, so they've lived in Canton for a number of years, and he's a great guy. I mean, you just bump into him and he's like it's like he's been your neighbor for years. It's like, hey, how you doing? And how's the kids? And let's go make a record. So and yet he's very, I mean, he's, Chris Allen from the band Falling Stars one time told me, it's like, it's real simple. If you're making a record and if in doubt, call Don. So, it's so hopefully we get him some work. I don't know. No, he's a busy guy, and I mean that's the only thing with Don is that whenever I hit him up to, hey, I think I got some stuff to record. It's I hope he's available.
Yeah. Is he always like traveling, or can he do this stuff from anywhere now with our technology?
He works a lot out of his house, but he does travel a lot. So I mean, he was on tour with Mary Chapin Carpenter playing bass for her over the summer last summer. I don't know, a couple of
she's always on tour,
yeah. And then and it was just one of those things where it's like I could have called him up and saw, but by the time we started making this new record called New Record, we were already knee deep in it, by the time I was gonna, would have called Don. So it's, so this one we worked, with a guy named Nate Vale, out of the Rialto Theater in Akron, has a studio, and so we recorded the whole thing there, put the band up on stage.
Where you did Hotsy Totsy, that's the same.
Yeah, same one we did Hotsy Totsy, but the thing is we did Hotsy Totsy, and it's like, okay, that actually worked, and they got the sounds really well. We probably should formally do a record here. So I kind of see these two records. The new one called New Record, is 7 songs, and Hotsy Totsy is like a whole big live album of, I think, maybe 12 songs, and it's got obviously old material done up, new and live. It's like a live album. So if everybody's like, wow, you put 2 albums out in 2 years, it's like, yeah, we did, but it's almost like they sort of work together, so maybe we'll do a box set someday.
Ooh, yes.
Brian Lisik, the botched set.
It can happen.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. You get the right people on that, and the right artists and people to do the remixing.
Yeah. But, as far as working with Don, anytime he'd like to, and anytime I got some stuff, I would love to, work with him again on some stuff, because he's real. It's an odd thing to be working with a Grammy-winning, producer and artist, and going, doesn't he have anything else? Doesn't he have to like mow his lawn or something? There's a million things that are more important than working with me. But yet he never makes you feel like that. So it's a really, it's fun. I've learned a lot about how to make a record from him. I don't know if he realizes I learned a lot, but I've been watching.
Yeah, you're very fortunate. A guy to be in Canton.
And learning to keep my mouth shut, because apparently I talk a lot when I'm recording a record, and sometimes Don's like, Brian, just be quiet, I'm thinking. It's like, okay.
Now you introduced the song Monk at this show at the Rialto before you even got
Oh yeah. There were let me see, Monk, Anything, and sort of Billy the Kid. Although it was still called Sights at the time. Sights I had put out as an acoustic single, so it was sort of out there already. And then when we did it live, we did it with the band and put it on Hotsy Totsy. And when we thought about it, it's like, well, it's kind of a different song now that it's done up with the band. So it's kind of like my Bebop Alula or something. I keep recording it over and over again. And
good. It's a good opener. It's like great. It's
my Great Balls of Fire. I got 12 versions of it.
Very inspirational, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Good 7-track album, which you call an album. It's not an EP. This is a full album, and
it is. I think. Well, I was. We both know Mike Farley, my publicist. And I. I'm like, is this thing an album or an EP or what is it? And I think we came to the conclusion that when you hit 7 songs, it kind of counts as an album. I don't know whether there's a rule or not, but we just kept recording till the song started sounding like, oh, maybe we should practice that one some more. So number 8 will go on the next one.
Now, is this available on vinyl, or you've just all been just digital all this time?
It's digital, and it's even CD if you want one.
Oh, good. There you go. You got artwork with that, I'm sure.
Player not included, but if anybody's got one. But yeah, we are planning on doing a vinyl release of it, because the idea was to do vinyl to begin with. Vinyl is just an interesting construct, and it's still kind of expensive, so
it is, yeah.
But we're figuring some things out, and my plan is to we're going to hopefully be getting out on the road doing some out of town stuff come spring, and working on that and doing it sort of in conjunction with a vinyl release, so that it's sort of something new to talk about and sell.
Bring them to the shows.
Introducing Carvana Value Tracker, where you can track your car's value over time and learn what's driving it. It might make you excited.
Whoa, didn't know my car was valued this high.
It might make you nervous.
Uh-oh, market's flooded. My car's value just dipped 2.3%.
It might make you optimistic.
Our low mileage is paying off. Our value's up.
And it might make you realistic.
Car prices haven't gone up in a couple weeks. Maybe it's time to sell.
But it will definitely make you an expert on your car's value. Carvana Value Tracker. Visit Carvana.com to start tracking your car's value today.
How long was Neil Armstrong actually on the moon? When did Europe start speaking English? Did Marco Polo really go to China? CuriosityStream is the streaming service for all things history, plus science, wildlife, and more. What's the real story behind the Mona Lisa? We've got that. What caused the collapse of Rome? We know. Where did we find mankind's earliest ancestor? Come find out. For the holidays, give the gift of curiosity with 25% off gift cards for your curious cohorts. It's holiday shopping season at curiositystream.com/gift.
Yeah, and you know, and then you go, and you put an extra song on it, so it's something special because of its, you know, being a different type of release, or so, you know. So who knows? If I put enough extra songs on the vinyl, and it may be, oh wow, he did 3 records in 2.5 years. Not really. I just keep repurposing myself. But I guess that's kind of the name of the game these days. You know, have merch to sell. You know, and not just the selling part, but just have, you know, people. For better or worse, people want to hear a lot of music all the time. And, you know, I don't know whether that creates a sort of disposable society or if it's a good thing to say, wow, people really like to hear music a lot. You know, I wish people, there's an old school, old soul part of me that wishes that people would spend more time with their music and kind of, you know, it was a big deal when I was a kid. It's like, oh wow, you know, such and such band's coming out with a new album, and everybody's standing in line down the road waiting for the record store to open up because you're going to get one of the first versions of the record. And it's like now it's kind of like a big deal. I can always find it online, right? So there's a little bit of a, there's nothing wrong with it, and it really does allow you. I mean, there's the pure volume of music that we can put our ears on these days compared to what we used to be able to is like mind-boggling. So that's great. You know, I mean, my son's constantly sending me, oh, this, you know, check this band out. And I'd have never, you know, found a band that way. You know, if there was a band in Atlanta making records, you had to pretty much drive to Atlanta and buy the record, you know, or see them at a show or something. And now it's like I listen to all kinds of music and noise and stuff that, you know, there's so much at my disposal as a listener that I find myself spending more time listening to like you know, NPR and demos of guitar pickups and stuff. That's really weird. It's like, this doesn't even have anything to do with music, but I'm just, I feel like I'm musiced out, you know. So I don't know whether in the long run, if that's a, you know, a good thing or a not so good thing, because I feel in some ways that, you know, what we do is being considered a little less precious than it used to be. But at the same time, you get a lot of it. So that's a good thing to, you know, and there's no, I don't expect to have an answer to that. It's just an observation.
It's really nice to have that choice. And in the digital world, you still kind of have to go out of your way. Cause like I'm on Amazon, and it's targets. If it knew I listened to like, you know, Led Zeppelin Physical Graffiti, then I get a whole bunch of suggestions for more Led Zeppelin, and just within that family, it's like, then it's keeping me in that box.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's still the adventure of finding music. If you're a music connoisseur, and I think, you know, it's by and large, it's better now. You know, I mean, it's kind of like me going, oh, you know, remember when, you know, it wouldn't have been great back in the 50s when all the cars were cool. It's like, yeah, and they all broke down and burned up a bunch of gas, and you couldn't afford to, I mean, you'd never be able to afford to drive one now. And so, you know, then I jump in my little Kia Forte and go, you know, it's great, man. Everywhere I need to go. It doesn't burn up a ton of gas, you know, this little, you know, Korean car, you know. But so, you know, it's kind of like that with music, is that, you know, you can sit and be, that guy that goes, nothing sounds better than my Neil Young record from the 70s. It's like, yeah, you're probably right. But, you can get this recording of Neil Young reciting poetry to his children as he talks them to sleep at night or something. I mean, you can find anything, that's like, if it was recorded, you can find it. And that's pretty amazing. I like it. I spend far too much time on YouTube and Spotify. Ask my girlfriend.
It is so true. But I love these audio purists though who like have like the old Kenwood amps and things like that.
Well, the thing is, I agree with them. It does sound much better, and I am, trying every time I make a record or every time I do a recording. I don't know if it's going to be a record or digital or what it's going to be. But I'm trying to create that experience of, my parents had one of those home stereos, that was like the size of a, school bus. And if you got your ears right in between those cloth speakers and drop the vinyl and put on the Johnny Cash record, and it's like, oh my God, it's like I'm in prison. It's great. It sounds just like it. And so you're always looking for that experience, to give people that experience. And then, I go, another Don Dixon story. I was trying to explain to him a sound that I wanted. And it's like, listen to this, I think it was a Samantha Fish record or something. And I'm like, listen to what she sounds like on this record. It's great. And I hand him my phone and he goes, Brian, that sounds like a phone. So, I mean, you try and make records sound as good as you can. And I am one of those old audiophiles that goes, hey, my old vinyl probably does sound better, but I used to buy a lot of my vinyl at the Kmart too, which was cast off stuff. I think the record labels sent the cheap, there was like cheap vinyl.
There was back then. Yeah. Woolworths, Kmart.
We think that it was some kind of precious commodity that's like, oh, vinyl, it's like, there was crap vinyl too, if you lived through it, anytime you had to like, wind a cassette tape back up, if you lived
all
through
the
that.
time. Yeah, that's so true. Really, really true. So this new album, how do you write as a lyricist? What's your interest in that? As I try and put as little effort into it as possible because I feel like the best stuff comes out. I constantly am scribbling things down. There'll be these moments where I'm in the middle of a conversation and like do this, like I'm in a seance or something. All of a sudden, it's like where I disappear somewhere for a split second. And it's like, that's a great line. And I scribble it down or I text it to myself or whatever. And then it's very much the way George Martin used to do with the Beatles sounds. It's like I just take all those words and throw them up in the air and go, does anything fit? I mean, sometimes there's, a passage that works together, but a lot of times it's fun just to, do, word salad with your stuff. And I mean, this is probably disappointing a lot of people who heard my lyrics and they mean so much to me. It's like, no, I just threw a bunch of words together. It's fun that, it's, creating word landscapes is as fun to me as creating, musical audio landscapes, and so I just try and do things that are interesting and make sense. And I can tell you how I don't write very often is, I'd like to write a song about the state of global warming, and I'm going to write the greatest song ever about what, and sit down and some people can do that. And I greatly respect them that you can sit down and write a song about a topic that really works. I got a guy named Ray Flanagan, a guitar player, singer-songwriter from here in Cleveland. He used to play guitar with me. But, he's done these workshop type things and worked with like veterans and things in these different projects where, they're like working with the veterans. I don't know what it's called. I should know what it's called. I apologize, Ray. But it blows my mind that songwriters will be paired up with like a military veteran to kind of tell their story through song. Yeah,
and
that's cool.
Ray's really good at that stuff, to like set a scene and actually make a point with a song. I don't know if I make any points with any of my songs.
Yeah.
I just kind of free form, let it go. And I think if you take the whole of my repertoire,
Mm.
that there's some kind of there's common themes that come out. But I don't think a whole lot about um, lyric writing, because I feel the more I think about it, I strangle it, and so I just kind of let it,
Let's go. Yeah. Yeah. Word salad.
and the scary part is, well, what if you don't come up with a good song? There's an old saying, I think I heard it in a Waylon Jennings song one time, talking about a poet, that, challenges themselves to write a certain amount of poetry a day. And it's like, well, what if you miss a day? It's like, well, I just lower my standards and take a nap. So because I don't really want to force it, because I've tried forcing songwriting, and so I guess if I don't come up with any songs, I just lower my standards and make a live album of my old material. How about that?
There you go. Yeah, keep it going. Keep regurgitating.
Yeah.
You have a great bassist and vocalist, Steve Norgrove. Gotta mention
Oh
him.
yeah,
And
yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
and you recorded at his studio. Have you
yeah,
worked
yeah,
at?
well, yeah. We've done a couple of records at his studio. The Well, Hotsy Totsy was done how it was done, and this new one again was done at Rialto. But going a couple of records back, there's one called "Goodbye Stupid World" that we recorded. I was kind of at a point where the band I was the guys in my band at the time were going off and doing different projects, and it's like, yeah, Steve's sort of building a studio in his basement. Let's go try out some of these microphones and things. And next thing you know, like it always happens, I brought a bunch of songs over, and we go, hey, I think this is turning into a record. And it was funny because I had just bought a Jazzmaster, and everybody was going, anybody who was paying any attention is like, oh, Brian's making his solo acoustic album. And it's like, well, I guess you might call it a solo album, but we haven't put an acoustic instrument on it yet, so it's, and then Don did the post-production on that one as well. And that's a really, everybody should go buy that one too. It's a great record,
Yeah,
but Steve,
Superwoman.
yeah, it's again spelled all wrong, but I think Google will find it for you. But yeah, Steve has played with me, geez, I think since 2005, and he's an excellent bass player, and gotten out of the live game, because
Right.
you know hauling amplifiers around and stuff is not a romantic pursuit after a while. And but yet, he's keeps popping up on my records. I don't know why. It's like it's like, oh, okay, it's time to put bass on it. Let's call Steve up. So, and he's a great. I don't know. He's just my songwriting buddy. He's my buddy, and he keeps popping up. And whether he's playing with us live or not.
Yeah, his basement studios. Also spelled kind of funny too.
The bass mint, bass like guitar, and then mint because I guess it's minty fresh, and it's his basement.
Yeah, you have an interesting track on the live album. It's a track about falling in love with somebody who is a lesbian.
Yeah, well, or a free living person, I suppose. But I don't know. It was I think it's hilarious, and it's actually a sweet little love song.
Yeah,
So hopefully everybody takes it that way, because that was the intention. It's like we almost put that out as a single, and I was working with a radio promo guy at the time, and he goes, I don't know if we should put that out as a single. That might be. It's like it's not a. It's I mean. It's a nice song.
It's something that could happen in life, because it's funny. It's usually a straight woman who falls in love with a gay man, and that's usually been the narrative for years. But it can go the other way.
Yeah, well, the humor that, or at least my attempt at humor with it is any straight guy that happens to immediately thinks, well, this is me, so I can change that, right? Because I'm charming. Good looking, and it's like, who can resist me, right? So it was sort of poking fun at the red-blooded American male.
That does.
Like,
Oh yeah, I know. I think they're
so
watching too
hopefully
much. Yeah.
people, yeah, hopefully people caught the joke of the fun poking at the red-blooded American man, archetype. Because that's what it was. Because I'm thinking, oh God, I mean, hopefully people don't take this as some sort of an offensive.
Introducing Carvana Value Tracker, where you can track your car's value over time and learn what's driving it. It might make you excited.
Whoa, didn't know my car was valued this high.
It might make you nervous.
Uh-oh, market's flooded. My car's value just dipped 2.3%.
It might make you optimistic.
Our low mileage is paying off. Our value's up.
And it might make you realistic.
Car prices haven't gone up in a couple weeks. Maybe it's time to sell.
But it will definitely make you an expert on your car's value. Carvana Value Tracker. Visit Carvana.com to start tracking your car's value today.
Here's to holiday traditions, the ones that started as a quick laugh but are now irreplaceable. Here's to the recipes that require Grandma's mixing bowl because they just won't taste the same without it. The Chinette brand believes in spending more time on traditions and less time cleaning up. With the Chinette Crystal, Comfort, and Classic collections, we can help make your holiday celebrations better for years to come. Here's to mixing timeless traditions with a few new ones. Here's to us, all of us. To find out more, visit mychinette.com.
Right. Yeah.
Thing that like I'm making fun of people, but if anything, I'm making fun of myself. So
Hey, I could change it. Look at me. Yeah.
I mean, God, look at me. How can you resist me, right?
That's very good. Yeah. So, really cool. So, and this new record, it's out there. We could find it on all the streaming platforms and
all the I've done a good job of, or we've done a good job, or whatever, of getting it out there. So hopefully people go look for it. I don't know, what are you supposed to tell people these days? My record is everywhere. So we used to say things like, go down to the record bin at 132nd and whatever, and all my records are there at the store, and so it's but yet at the same time, again, anybody can see this and go, hey, that guy sounded really charming, and I would date him if I was a lesbian or something, and they might go, I want to go listen to the record.
We used to be able to go to the mall. It's like, is the malls are all dying. Is the Summit Mall still over there in Akron?
Summit Mall is. I interestingly enough, I one of the places I write for, I do some copy editing, certain days of the week, and it's like right across the street from Summit Mall. So Summit Mall is still there. Belden Village is still down here in Canton.
Wow, yeah.
But I don't know whether people go to the mall the same way they used to, but because there was really nothing. Our whole lives were like a parking lot in this building with a bunch of stores in it, and that's where you went. So I was like,
Oh, those record
like
stores, Camelot, and those places. I remember when they had 8 tracks and they had them behind glass. It's like you had to ask to get those unlocked.
I mean, if I die and go to heaven, I'm just going to wake up in a coconuts or a grapevine or something and go, I'm home. All these albums, and yet the ironic part is that it's just it's a microcosm of the amount of music I can find.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
30 seconds, on my phone, which is crazy, But there was I miss the old days in a way.
Yeah, there was something very visceral about that, very common.
Yeah.
I mean, terrestrial radio is obviously very, very corporate and limited.
Yeah. And I don't know, and the dirty little secret is that, was it really any different or largely different? That's what I love about people like Don. He's, a few years older than me, but he's got a real, amazingly young outlook that like, hey, things change, and it's still the same thing. Music isn't changing. It's just the distribution mechanism is changing, and the way people consume it is changing. And you might make an argument that the music sounds like crap on your phone compared to on your hi-fi vinyl, whatever, but the music sounded like crap on a transistor radio in the 60s too. So it's like nothing's really changed, but yet everything's changed. How's that for a real
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
poetic comment, and there's, like I said, maybe someday we all die and go to the mall, when we
big mall in the sky.
We wake up in the big, we ride the big escalator to the
right
to the men's section at the top of it, whatever, and I pick out some cool pants, and then I go to, the FYI or something.
It's funny, yeah, it really is. Well, you got great tracks on here. You have some horn sections. You have a good cast of characters on this project too, as well.
Hats off anyway to Martin Flanoy, our drummer, because he plays with the Bizarros, and he's been around the scene for ever. And he knew Ian Early, the saxophone player from Cherry Papa Daddies, and then Steve knew John and Stefan, who played the trumpet and trombone respectively on the record. So I had never put horns on a song, but this one was just like screaming for horns. And I wanted to do a 70s cop show kind of. So it's a song called Better Than Nothing.
Right.
And it's quite a departure, I guess, for me, but then at the same time it's a departure from anything that I've recorded, but I've made songs like that, written songs like that lots of times, but this one it's like, yeah, let's do this. And the idea was to get 3 or 4 people in a room playing horns, and I don't know, I guess I would like sing them a horn part or something. But schedules being what they were, it was pretty remarkable to me that we even pulled it off. It took like 3 sessions, but you'd never know it to hear it, because everything, those guys knew what they were doing. And I literally hummed John sort of a horn part, like I kind of wanted to do this, and then maybe a harmony doing this, and they those guys all wrote their parts all out and did a great job, and the rest of the band, we hung in there too.
yeah it adds another texture to it too. The band Hard Legs, where does it have its origins?
I think it's technically, if you look it up online, I think it was should I tell the secret? Because I've never really told the secret. Ooh. I don't want to let out too much, but no, it's African American GI, World War II GI slang for you fill in the blank. You can probably figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's and I never knew this, and Martin at some point just goes, I always wanted to call a band Hard Legs. I'm like, why? He goes, I don't know. The guys back in the neighborhood would always talk about, hey, Hard Legs, this and that. And it seems funny. And so we started doing it, and it stuck. And before I knew it, it was on an album cover. And before I knew it, the radio was going, Brian was like Hard Legs. It's what happens when a bunch of dirty old men get in a room. They start doing things like that. They start coming up with stupid names. And now all of a sudden it's now we're the Doobie Brothers. Now we can't.
Yeah. Look at that origin.
It was a dumb idea, and now we can't get rid of it.
Right. Oh, it's good. You have a lot of great talent up there in Northeast Ohio, and obviously Devo is huge. That's closer to you, and so many others.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there's people who the really crazy thing is that there's people who played in those bands. The Mother's Bought people, and relatives of Mark and everything, and guys like Terry Hind and Chris Butler from the Waitresses, and they just they're just hanging out at clubs and shows and stuff. It's like, hey Chris, hi Brian, and it's like, holy crap, that guy was it's in the Waitresses. It's like, yeah, I'm in awe, but at the same time it's just like, just a guy in the neighborhood. So it's sort of strange. They've been around me forever, but I guess I didn't realize that I was in sort of this hotbed of, and when I was growing up, it really was a hotbed. I mean, these guys had songs on the charts, I guess I just didn't realize what was around me. I kept going, it's like, I gotta go to LA, I gotta go to Nashville, I gotta go to Chicago. And we were all doing it. It wasn't just me, it was everybody, the overarching goal of any Midwestern musician, in the 80s and 90s and stuff was to get out of town, go somewhere else. We're going to go to LA, live in a rat infested room, and then we're going to take on the Sunset Strip, and everybody's going to, love our version of, spandex pants and big hair, and better than the other guy's version of spandex pants and, big hair, and, and then we all came back home and went, I really like Wilco. Is that okay?
Yeah. You've been described as Wilco on steroids.
Yeah. I thought that was a great one. I can't remember which writer at Scene said that. Was it Scene? Somebody. I think it was a Scene magazine writer. It's like, boy, that's about it. Nervous Wilco. That's but yeah, that's kind of that's sort of what we or Wilco with broken fingers, or
something like in that area there. Yeah. And you've also shared the stage. There's a whole list here. Roger McGuinn stands out, and so does Any Money. Sure.
We not as dramatic as isn't like I toured with them or something, but there were some shows when they came through town through Akron at Lock 3 Park. Does a lot of cool things in downtown Akron, and used to do a lot of even cooler things, as a matter of fact. But yeah, we got some opening acts with Roger McGuinn put on a great show and seemed like a nice guy, and like disappeared after the show. And then then Any Money put on a pretty good show, and but sat and signed autographs, I think, for 3 hours.
So he was the real deal. Yeah.
And then I got yelled at the Eddie Money show. That was kind of funny because they had this, when you're opening for a big act, they got all this food and crap, backstage.
Craft services are backstage.
Yeah. It's like all this big layout of stuff. And somebody made the mistake of telling us, "Hey guys, go down there. There's some food." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And my bass player, actually, he's playing bass for me again here. A guy named Gerard Dominic, and he's a big, gigantic, wrestler-looking guy. And we're down backstage, and the band all goes up on the stage, listening to the sound check. Eddie Money's band sound checking, and we're like, "Man, there's still food." We're like eating all the food. So finally, we get filled up, I guess, and go walking up on the back of the stage, and I guess they're still sound checking, but nobody's around. So I walk up to the mic and say something stupid like, "Hello, Akron," and sound guy goes ballistic. It's like, "Why can't you hear? I told everybody don't touch Eddie's mic. That's Eddie's mic." And he cussing me out and everything. And I'm like, "I was downstairs eating. Sorry." So I molested it. So I molested Eddie Money's lead microphone, apparently. I don't know, by saying "Hello, Akron" in it, so.
I love those kind of stories. Just they're everyday people too.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. Eddie didn't yell at me, so it was cool. Well, I didn't notice that.
They always have these nervous Nellies around them. I interviewed John Oates a number of years ago, and he had a really nervous manager. And then he had a security guy for John Oates, and I had my phone under my sweater, and he's like, "Sir," and I've been talking to this guy all evening. "What's that under your sweater there?" And it's like, "It's my phone. It's not. I'm not going to assassinate John Oates."
Yeah, I'm not. It's either my phone or I'm happy to see John Oates.
It's like, what?
Yeah. And then I got run off backstage at Tangier one time. I worked there as a busboy.
Yeah.
And then Charlie Daniels came, and my dad gave me a can of Skull chewing stuff to sign for Charlie Daniels to sign. So it's like, I got to get up there. And I found out years later that this guy was legit, but it was a guy named David something, but he was his tour manager for years. Big cowboy looking guy, big mustache and the whole 9 yards. And he's like, "Oh yeah, go on, boys, go on." Me and a buddy of mine that worked there, and they're like, "Oh, go on up and say hi to Charlie. It's okay." and we're there, and everybody got a kick out of the can of snuff and everything, and we're meeting Charlie Daniels, and he's nice and everything, and all of a sudden this security guy from Tangier comes up, and with the crew cut and the mic, the walkie-talkie and everything. He's like, "Oh, you guys doing up here? Get out of here. It's like, what are you doing? How'd you get back here? And I'm like, well, David told us to. He goes, who's David? And the whole band's like cracking up because they know who David is. It's like, so, okay, bye, Charlie. We got to go. Hope we don't get fired. But the mission accomplished. I had my skull can signed by Charlie Daniels.
That's hilarious.
Wow. So there's all this. I mean, I should probably write a book or something. Maybe somebody would read it.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun. Well, best wishes. It's great that you stopped by, and best wishes on everything, all your endeavors, your freelance writing, and beyond. And I hope you had a great time listening to our talk. It was just a lot of fun, a lot of things in common there. Northeast Ohio, Cleveland does rock indeed, and people like Brian are very much a part of that. See you soon.
Introducing Carvana Value Tracker, where you can track your car's value over time and learn what's driving it. It might make you excited.
Whoa, didn't know my car was valued this high.
It might make you nervous.
Uh-oh, market's flooded. My car's value just dipped 2.3%.
It might make you optimistic.
Our low mileage is paying off. Our value's up.
And it might make you realistic.
Car prices haven't gone up in a couple weeks. Maybe it's time to sell.
But it will definitely make you an expert on your car's value. Carvana Value Tracker. Visit Carvana.com to start tracking your car's value today.